So we'll move into our keynote session 7. Inshallah. And thank you, Professor Kolandas and Professor Vishwas. Let's move on. I hope the chair, Dr. Shireen Taleb or Dr. Moradeo, if you're around, would like you to come in.
Yeah, good afternoon or morning.
Excellent.
I'm here, Dr. Moradeo is here.
Okay, so would you like to invite Mr. John Tinker and give an introduction about him for a minute? How Dr. Shireen Taleb is also here.
All right.
So one of you,
okay,
one of you can give a minute or two introduction about John, and then we'll listen to John.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening, depending on where we are. I'll be introducing the next keynote speaker, Mr. John Tinker. He's an American activist and founder of schemaroot.org. It's a project of the global democracy movement. The website aggregates and shares news from at least 4,500 sites across the web. In 1969, Tinker's name was attached to an oft-cited Supreme Court decision establishing free speech and protected rights in America's public schools. Its name as the Tinker Standard and has become a hallmark of freedom of speech. Now we'll welcome Mr. John Tinker, and he'll be talking on the foundations of my education, bringing back education in education. We'll welcome Mr. John Tinker. We are glad to have you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moradeo.
You're welcome.
Yes, I was a little confused when I received the invitation to this conference because I'm not an academic. Academics impress me. My mother was an academic, had a PhD in psychology, but I'm not one. I'm an engineer, a radio engineer. Right now, I'm the only engineer at the community radio station in Fayette, Missouri. We have a low power FCC licensed station here, and we broadcast 24/7. It's running on software that I wrote. I got into programming very early. I had one of the very first computers that had a microprocessor in it. It's called the Selby 8H. Had 1K of RAM. Anyway, that's what I learned to program on. And I am completely self-taught. I was an architect on some very large billing systems in the San Francisco Bay Area, working for a large telecommunications company doing large billing systems. So I kind of worked my way up by my bootstraps. I don't have an education in computer science, but I am an activist. I consider myself one. I grew up in a family of activists. My father was a Methodist minister. I'd like to just run through briefly a little slideshow that I've got, if I can get everything hooked up right. Here we go. This is a little slideshow that we made 3 years ago to mark the 50th anniversary of our Supreme Court case. And in 1969, my sister and I and a friend of ours won what has turned out to be a landmark Supreme Court case, where the Supreme Court of the United States acknowledges that that students are actually people within the meaning of the Constitution. Let me ask, can people see my screen right now? Because I am trying to show it, and maybe not. Were people able to see my screen, or?
Not yet, sir.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to go and try to do the video settings, share screen. Let's see if that works. You know, maybe I'm not going to get too stuck on this, showing you my screen. I'm just going to tell you my story. My father was a Methodist minister in a small town in Iowa, in the center of the United States.
Mr.
Are you okay?
John Tinker, if I may request you, if in the screen, if you see a green rectangular button with,
I see it. I do.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
And then share in the right below.
Oh, okay. Can you see my truck?
Thank you.
Well, this story is not very well organized, I'm sorry to tell you, but my life was interesting. My father was a Methodist minister in a small town, had one black family in the town, and they were not permitted to use the town swimming pool. And so this is the church. Here he is as the pastor. And are you seeing my screen right now?
Yes.
My father can touch that rule because of a state law, but he was not rehired to his position at the church. And so we moved to Des Moines, Iowa, and he got another church. And my mother became very interested in the civil rights movement at that time, and she made sure that we had black friends. So this is myself and my friend Stanley Griffin. His mother had won an Iowa Supreme Court case back in 1948, an anti-discrimination lawsuit. So I grew up in the civil rights movement. This is the No More Birminghams. That's a photo of the Birmingham church that was bombed in 1963, and it killed 4 little black girls. Here they are. I grew up in the midst of that, and we were active in it. This is my sisters and our friends at a memorial for those girls that were killed. And so the Vietnam War came along, and my dad had been kicked out of 2 churches now for civil rights activities. He got a job working for the Quakers, and it was like a perfect job for him. They appreciated his work, and they appreciated that he was anti-war. So his job was called Peace Education Secretary, and his job was to bring information to the people about what's going on, especially about Vietnam. So some of us students decided to have a protest to wear black armbands. The school kicked us out. This is my sister Mary Beth with her black armband at a school board meeting. They told us it wasn't important for them to deal with. They decided against us. We wore them anyway. I'm going to shorten this up. It's kind of a brief thumbnail of what happened, but we sued the school board. We lost. We appealed, and we lost again. And we appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, and there we won 7-2. And it became a landmark decision. The students are people, and they do have First Amendment rights. If students can express themselves without disrupting the school, they have every right to do so. So with that little sketch of the court case, which is really what I'm largely engaged in these days, we have I got to show you, this is our schedule for our radio station, and I'm going to try to find my, it's fun to try to get everything to work at once. Here we go. This is my foundation website, johnftinkerfoundation.org. We're doing a series of podcasts about our case and subsequent Supreme Court cases that have modified the ruling in our case somewhat. And this is leading up to a seminar, April 13th and 14th in Kansas City, that will be in person and also online, a 2-day or a day and a half conference about the basis of student expressive rights in the United States. And now I wanted to just show you very briefly some of my website. This is a typical page on Sierra Leone. And we'll notice that although it says it's updated today, that none of the news articles are past 2018. So there you go. I've got this wonderful site, and it's not, it's currently disconnected in some way.
Can I
So,
just
yes.
you for a minute? I think
Yes.
the mic from your headphone, can you hear some noise? Just
Okay.
the mic,
It might be, I might be,
may come down completely.
can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I think I'm squeaking my chair, and I apologize for that.
Otherwise, it's okay.
This website has about 20,000 pages, a few over 20,000 pages, and it's organized hierarchically. So on the left side over here, you'll see just the current node structure of the hierarchy, but it's a very hierarchically organized. I've got these indexes, and I have to apologize because this website has really been unmaintained for about 2 or 3 years. It's still technically online, but I just wanted to show you what, for example, the Africa index looks like. These are all, every one of these is a link to an internal page of Schema Root. And when it's working, all of the articles are also cross-referenced via 60,000 phrases against these 20,000 pages. And it was designed to capture news, specifically from the Google News site. I was scraping their site, and it became increasingly difficult to keep up with their changes of format. If any of you do regular expressions, you'll understand some of the difficulty of chasing that stuff down. But anyway, I'm looking for a new data source now for my 20,000 newsfeed topics, but one of them, like here's, we'll go to my page on the government of Ethiopia. So these are all stories about the government of Ethiopia. And at the peak, I had accumulated 100 million of these items in my databases. I was real happy. I felt like I had nailed world history. For a period of about 8 or 9 years, I had every single significant story covered from about every angle. So I thought of it as a research platform. Over here, I have these various searches. I'm going to improve that. I've got a bunch more resource sites that I can reach out to for data. And then over on the other side, I put various media organizations. Anyway, it was a very fulfilling task that I underwent. I pursued for about a dozen years. But now I'm moving more into dealing with the radio station here and our foundation. So with that introduction, a short, quick sketch there, maybe people would have some questions for me. I'd be happy to try to answer them. Are we still here? Oh boy.
Thank you, sir, Mr. John. Anyone that has question can ask question for him.
Thank you so much, Mr. John Tinker, for coming and joining us. It's a pleasure listening to you. And I'm also from social work background. I know the kind of work that you are doing is not everybody's cup of tea, and it is activism, and your life events brought you here. Life situations have brought you here.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, you are someone who is very high on empathy, and we are all the time, struggling to fight the external situations that are imposed on us
Yes.
by others,
Yes.
through abuse, through violence, through aggression, unnecessary kinds of situations which no one wants to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you have to say after working after such a long time? Where is it that we can find peace internally, or by resolving the external situations outside, and where does it end?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, please.
You know, I get a lot of reinforcement and hope from people. I don't mean to be, it's people such as yourself that care about what's going on, that care about the world. You give me hope. And there have been people like that my whole life. Not just my parents, although my parents were very much like that. But others in my life, not everybody is engaged with the world in an authentic, direct way. I try to be, and I guess I don't know my own failings. None of us probably do, but it's other people that are working, trying to make sense out of this world that keeps me going. I'm very interested in language and the way language works and the way that semantics works and the way that meanings coalesce around the objects of conversation, and the way that we can build, I hope, a world community that reaches across our borders and our boundaries. And that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm recognizing the power of money as a primary evil, honestly. I think of it as a scalar that reduces human meaning to a single number, and that can't support the development of truly human culture. And so I see our capture by money systems as being one of the primary problems we have, but also militarism and so on. But anyway, I could go on for a long time about what I think about things, but I do appreciate very much your group and that you invited me, of all people. And I saw that Cindy Sheehan was not able to present her presentation, but I've followed her over the years. I've seen her talk and spoken with her briefly. And another person who really cares a lot about the world, and I know you all do too. And so I feel like I'm part of your community already, in a way. I'm very interested in the academic topics also, but in an amateur way. I'm not an academic. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure to be part of this.
May I have a question, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Tinker. It has been a great pleasure to be here this morning with us when it comes to ICNSEE perspectives. I followed you quite a bit, and I discovered, which is reflected in today's lectures from your side. When you were young, you understood and you went for protest, and you were punished, let's say, which was, later it became falsified, right? That means the punishment that you were experiencing, it was falsified. So yes. Now, referring to the question of Professor Aurora, in everywhere we see invariably there is a serious discrimination in different forms. It can be racial, it can be religious, it can be any way. But at the end of the day, we are human beings. If we cut our skin, blood is red. Does not matter what is my skin or what is my religion, what is my gender, and so on, so on. So in your very long, successful journey in United States or in North America, what is your suggestion? How can we unite the people? How can we bring and make them in one point in a clear understanding, saying that we are from one single parents, we are really one person's, production, and branches it into millions, trillions, billions, and so on. So what is your suggestion? Because as an institution, ICNSEE really wanted to explore one fundamental issue, that every human being by born is talented, number one. Number two, we absolutely do not have anything to say about gender, about color. Even let's say you are more knowledgeable than me. Yet we wanted to say this knowledge I do not deserve. So what is your mechanism? What is your suggestion, let's say, for me?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to ask the tough questions. I'll give you that. What can we do? First, I think I'm a person of faith. Honestly, I'm not a religious person, but when I was a young child, my father, while he was in the middle of all of the trouble that he was taking on himself for the sake of social justice, was really what was happening. He sat me down, and I was like 4 years old. I was a little kid, and he said, "John, no matter what, I want you to know one thing." And he said, "Life is good." And I'm a little bit shocked, to be 4 years old and having your parent setting you straight about such a basic thing. Life is good. And I think that there's a lot there. And a person of faith, in my view, what I mean is that without knowing what's going to happen, knowing that good things have happened and that good things do exist, and that a good, even that the notion of good has managed to prevail despite all of the problems. And we are in the middle of huge crises right now. Everybody knows that. But the one thing is, like, if our problems are institutional, at institutional inertia and institutional massiveness, we're quick. Individuals are quick, and small groups are quick, and so we can actually think about things fast, and we can share our wisdom fast compared to the speed and the inertia of some of the problems that we have. So, like, I think understanding human psychology is a huge project that we should be working very much on, to understand not just our opponents' arguments, but why opponents make arguments. What are the bases of human conflict? Anyway, I think, Professor Aurora, did you have a question? I see you waving your hand, and maybe there's a time issue.
No, there's no time issue. Please continue.
Okay, thank you. Basically, I think we are, it seems trite and trivial to say these things, but I think our most certain, I'm sorry about my squeaky chair, our most certain contexts, our most certain contacts are the people we're right next to. Our daily contact, my children. It's like, what kind of children? This sounds trite and trivial, I know, but I think it's also true that we have an ability to affect people that are close to us. Right now, for instance, in my small town, 2,500 people, I built this radio station, and we're broadcasting twice a day. They hear Democracy Now! And I'm not sure what you think of Democracy Now!, but compared to other news programs, it's pretty good. And so here's a rural town in Missouri, in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, that has a kind of a conservative right-wing bias to it, but they're exposed now to a radio station that definitely does not have a bias like that to it, where we have a very humanist perspective. Anyway, summing it up, boiling it down, it's like whatever little pieces we have, wherever our power is, wherever we can have an effect, that's where we work. And each one of us is in a different circumstance, in a different situation. So we locate now our human creativity in the individual person, all of us as creative individuals confronting the circumstances that we directly see and that inspire our imagination. And then as a whole collective of intelligent, inspired, creative people, I guess that's my, that's what I saw myself when I'm looking for hope, that maybe we can do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. John Tinker, for the insightful speech, and thank you so much for coming.
And thank you.